All right, everybody, we have a very special guest today. We've seen on the news people talking about the front line, what it's like to be a nurse. I don't know what it's like to be in the front lines, but I'm very, very fortunate to have Michelle with us today. We're going to be asking her what it's like being a nurse in this time of this era, and also how does she cope and what does she do to keep mental sanity? Because, this time where we are, we're told don't leave the house, social distancing, but she has to go to work every single day at a hospital and has to face the odds. So I'm just want to pick her brain a little bit, see what she does for fun. What is it really like on the front lines? And how does she keep her mind right during this whole time? So, Michelle, thank you very much for joining us.
Hi, thanks for having me.
We're going to have a good time. I'm actually really excited about this one because I've seen so much on the news or people sending you messages and sending me messages, and they're all talking about they have their own political ideas or they have their own little ideas on what it's like. And I've had a few people saying, oh, it doesn't even exist because it's not in my town. So we're going to dig into a little bit. So what kind of nurse are you and how long have you been doing it for?
I am a relief pool slash float nurse. So basically, what that is if people call in sick in the morning and they have a spot that they need to fill, I go in there and I float all over the hospital. So, whether it's on surgical or if it's a medical floor, I'm there. Sometimes they even stick me in ambassador shift, which is like where I'm controlling who's coming in and out of the hospital, if anybody is. What was the other thing that you
No,
asked
so
me?
and how long have you been a nurse for? Like, is this something that you've always wanted to be, or is it something you fell into?
Yeah, so I actually originally started as a care aide. I took my care aide in like 2002, 3 maybe. I did that for a bit, and then I took care of my mom's best friend's husband who was dying of brain cancer. And I did 24-hour care with him, not as a nurse, but as a care aide. And I did end up administering all of his medications because she was unable to stay home and like she had to work, right? So I did that. So, and then I started nursing. I graduated in 2014. So it hasn't been that long, but I definitely knew that I wanted to do more. I always loved taking care of people, and pain was a big thing for me. I wanted to make sure that I could give people pain control and to really understand what everybody's view is on dying and just a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know in the nursing curriculum if they even train you in for a situation like that we're in now. And even just to even be a float nurse, there has to be somewhat of a challenge where you don't know where you're going to be next. So you almost have to stay fresh on all the information above. So I mean, as a trainer, majority of my stuff is contest prep. So I'm not too worried about other areas of health and wellness because it's not my
Right.
focus. But then if you're going to be, let's say, a roam nurse and you're going to go you can wake up and go anywhere within a hospital. What is that kind of like? Is it kind of exciting that you don't do the same thing every day, or is it a little bit unresting where you don't know where you're going next?
No, I absolutely love the fact that I'm bounced around. Like I would much rather be kept on my toes and not know what's going to happen next, as opposed to becoming like complacent. Because like complacency, it can happen. It can happen really fast, and
Yeah.
then nurses just kind of get lazy, and then they're not fully assessing their patients because they've had that patient say there's like someone waiting for a long-term care bed. You've had that patient for like 6 months. Well, you get used to that patient, so you become complacent. You don't do a proper assessment. Next thing you know, they have a bowel obstruction or something, right? Like, so yeah, I definitely never want to be that nurse. I always look for change, and yeah, it's fun going to work in that sense. Like, not knowing if I'm going to be doing a fresh post-op or if I'm going to be doing like, someone that's come in and is having some other sort of medical issue, right?
Yeah, and I bet you days fly by. Like it's just all of a sudden you're dealing with these patients, and then all of a sudden to the next day. Because I find whenever something's new or fresh, I find time goes quicker. Or and also my attention span is also, like you said, is a lot more focused. So you're not as I'm going to say boring, or you get complacent or compliant. And I kind of like that idea where you get to float and fresh. And that's why I've never done a 9 to 5 job where sitting in office 40 hours a week, looking at the same cubicle or walls, working with the exact same people. The monotony would just drive me nuts.
Oh yeah, for sure. And like the nice thing too is like every single person in the hospital knows who I am. Like you just get to know how everybody works, you get to know their work ethic, you get to know a lot about everybody really fast, right? And I'm not one to sit around and do nothing. So I consider myself as like a nosy nurse. I like to know what's going on with everybody's patients. And there's a lot of nurses that only want to know what's going on with theirs. But like often I'm a code blue nurse too. So I'm like, you want to make sure you know who's really sick and who's possibly going to have a full code, right? So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's going to be a little bit an adrenaline rush where all of a sudden you said code blue, and I don't even know what that means, but I assume it's nothing positive, and it means it's
nothing.
almost like a oh snap moment. And so,
Yeah.
what is a code blue? Just so I can.
So it's where someone is tanking and you're getting the whole entire code team in the hospital to come and make sure that this patient's going to make it, and sometimes they fail really quickly and you're doing like full on chest compressions. You have every single doctor up there, yelling at you to administer this, and you have the crash cart, and it's pretty intense.
Yeah, I would call that fairly intense. And I mean, all over the news, people are talking about everyone on the front lines. I mean, there's unbelievable amount of support, and, it's worldwide. And I'm going to touch that in a minute. But what I want to talk a little bit more about you. And, as a nurse, and I've trained other nurses and doctors in my past and current, and the hardest time or the hardest thing for them was structure of figuring out how to get a meal in or how can I get a snack in. So, what are kind of some things that you've done where, again, on a 12-hour day, if you're swamped, you may not be able to get all your meals in or your snacks in, or what are kind of some of your secrets or tricks that you do in order to get some kind of a nourishment or hydration in on a busy day?
Been like actually one of my biggest things where like naturally I am slamming big bottles of water, right? So now it's like you're constantly have a mask on your face, then you have a face shield and you're all gowned up. Like it's come to the point where it's like I'm not hydrating properly. I'm having a really hard time with that. Um like everything just seems to be that more excessive, that because of the fact that you're wearing this full on helmet all day basically, right?
Yeah.
Before you could just have your water bottle sitting there. Now we have all these different routines, everything's locked up in the locker, it has to be wiped down before you can have a drink, then you got to wipe it back down, put it back in the locker. Like it's extreme. So it's like I think a lot of people are failing in that area. And, snacks, like I have a hard time finding like, certain things that fit my macros, because it's like the easy things would be like having, handfuls of almonds or a protein bar. Or the thing is that like following a vegan lifestyle, it's hard to find like a good protein bar. So it's like there's so many different things. So I'm struggling right now, big time.
That's got to be hard. And yes, I mean it. With even a vegan lifestyle, it takes now. I mean, it is more popular. There are more options, but the options are still limited. Where you can't necessarily go to a cafeteria or let's say to a store across where they may have some options, but not all vegan options, just like normal food, is not healthy. So I could definitely see where, again, trying to get the macros in, make sure that you are healthy, you somewhat are getting some sort of hydration would be a major component and kind of an obstacle, but you're getting over it. It's this is hopefully not a long term situation that we're in, and the situation that we're in, even as the front lines now, your first response or thought process where all of a sudden, you're watching the news and they're talking about, they called it the coronavirus. And then it turned into COVID-19. And then they're like, oh, we're going to shut down in 6 weeks, 2 weeks. And then all of a sudden, that we wake up, we're like, wow, the whole world, well, Canada, US, everyone shut down. And you had to go to work the next day or that day. What was that kind of cross your mind where everyone's told to told to go home and stay home, but then you're told, get ready, you're going on the front lines, we're going to work. What was that kind of like?
I was like, "Where's the extra money?"
Show me the money, man. Yeah.
Because
Yep.
to be honest, like I feel like I put myself at risk every single day regardless of COVID. Like there is TB, there's influenza, there's C. diff, like every single disease process that's going on, often we don't even know that someone's supposed to be on contact or airborne till like it's already too late,
Oh,
like
man.
same thing with like Norwalk, like, like that stuff runs rampant and takes out like all the elderly, right? Like they can't make it through that. I don't know if you know what Norwalk is. It's the norovirus. So
Yep.
it hits you like your gastro and everything, right? I'm sure. But like I don't know if you've ever been hit with that sickness, but taking that and timesing it by 1,000 and having a little old, lady that has like no meat on her bones, no means to really survive. And like you don't see us broadcasting about that, right? So yeah, it's definitely I just kept going to work because that's like and I was in denial for a really long time. I still actually kind of am, even though I'm working in it every day. It's like to me, it's just so weird that, you know, it's just so crazy to me that we're just doing this. Like we're all just locking ourselves in our homes and we're not going to the beach. Or if we are, we're making sure we're like, thousands of feet away from somebody else. And it's like you have to have your mental health too. Like you
Oh,
have to be able to survive. People with kids that are like, just even just your normal kid that should be outside playing, they're getting way too much screen time or whatever. Then they're even acting out even more. And the parents are trying to work from home. And then they have these little hellions running around everywhere. Like, how do
yeah.
they focus?
I mean, it's challenging for so many people. And I mean, I admit I'm fortunate where I'm not on the front lines. I can stay at home. I can work online. I have my options, and where I live, we never, like, having clients international, I always like to check in and say, where are you guys at? In some places around the world, they're now just allowed to have takeout. Or there's, it's like grocery stores are opening. So it's kind of neat on how it is a world pandemic, and but everyone's treated the same. And is it kind of the same in, like, say, where you work and where you talk to other colleagues in other hospitals? Is there a standard policy across the board, whether you have 1,000 cases where you work, or is there one? Is it just basically everything is treated the same for protocol?
Yeah, everything is treated the exact same. So, like, um, no one's allowed in the hospital. Like if there's only very few people. So we have say we have like 5 people in the hospital that are palliative and they have to be deemed at a certain level. It has to be like 10% palliative, which means like you are on your last breaths, you're not eating, you're not drinking. Those people are allowed to have one visitor a day. And as soon as they leave, they are not allowed to come back in. So when they come through the doors, they're checked. They're, to make sure that they haven't been out of country. They wash their hands. They're not allowed to bring any belongings in. They go to their room directly. They spend their time with their loved one. And then as they're leaving, they wash their hands. And then we tell them, like, we sign them in, we sign them out. They're not allowed to come back in. So that's tough for people because, like again, I'll use the elderly that are waiting for placements, which we have a lot of, right? There's a lot of old people that have been either sent to us from their loved ones because of burnout or they can no longer be taken care of. So they're there. And these people say they have dementia and, they're waiting for their loved one every single day to come and spend time with them, right? They have this routine that they're so used to having, like their husband or their wife, and now they're not allowed to come in.
So
So
so one person per day. So if all of a sudden, your loved one, you're now at that 10% mark, and all of a sudden you make a turn for the better or for the worse. If that one person already came, then you're on your own.
well, that's just it. It changes every day. Like certain things like that, it's tough. So every day you don't know what the rules are going to be next. Like one day I came to work and there was pens sitting at my desk. The next day I come to work and I'm like, where's all the pens? So you have to go down this little alley to go find a pen. You got to watch the pen, take it back to your station. Everything's like it's constantly changing. Then there was little notes. One person can sit here.
What?
And then So I was planning on you sitting on my lap over here while I was doing my charting, but okay, like it's just, and then every single day, like we do a thing called a team report. So we know like who's being discharged, who's staying here, who's going home, all this kind of stuff, right? So even that's changed. And then they've like made little spots like where you're allowed to stay. Like that nurse can sit there, that nurse can sit there, social work's over there, whatever, right? Like you're all being socially distanced in this small area, which it makes zero sense, but they're trying.
That's unbelievable. That's unreal. And I mean, it's because we don't understand. And I mean, it's neat to have, work with people with your kind of profession and have an understanding of what it was really like. And so, how has it kind of affected you at work, and let's say even at home? Like when you go home, are you thinking, okay, maybe did I contract even COVID-19 or contracted another virus? Or is it something that never crossed your mind? Or when you go home, is it just relaxing, kind of recoup, digest what you went through and get ready for the next day?
So personally, I go to work and I don't live in any sort of fear. I just know that I'm doing my diligence by keeping myself and my patients safe. Um, I've never I've never actually thought that. It's funny because right when COVID started happening, I ended up with really bad respiratory issues, and I've never had any sort of respiratory things going on. So at that point, I was like, okay, do I have COVID, or like, do I have something else going on? Because I've never felt anything like it. My chest started getting really heavy. I couldn't breathe. And then it went up into like my nasal passage and things like that. But I actually ended up with pneumonia. So it was like at that point right there, I understood that if this was COVID, there was no way in hell that there was going to be an 80-year-old person that was going to actually make it through this, or anybody that has any sort of like, I have autoimmune issues, and I I guess it could have been a lot worse, but I don't really know. But anyways, that was kind of off track there. But no, I come home, I stick with my regular routine. I do my meal preps, I walk my dogs, I try to train as hard as I can without the gym. But
Yeah, and speaking of that, I mean, you are a nurse, but you are human as well. So how has this affected you? Like, I know a lot of people have routines, and like you say, with your autoimmune disease, there's certain steps or certain people that you're used to seeing and helping you work on your muscles and stuff. So how has the whole COVID affected you on a personal side?
it's affected me hugely, and I didn't even know it was affecting me until I started having like more and more pain. So like I have fibromyalgia, which is like chronic pain, and a few other things that go with it. It's kind of just like it's like an umbrella term for you're going to have every single issue with your body happen now if you're having a flare up.
Yeah.
So before this happened, I was going for deep tissue therapy twice a week. I was going for um, IMS treatment, which is like, I don't know if you guys know, but it's like, it stimulates, it's like acupuncture, but with longer, thicker needles.
Yep.
Doing that and going to the gym. I went to the gym every single day before I'd work my 12-hour shift. And that's what got my body moving and like got the blood flowing and made me feel good. Right. So now I actually just got pulled from work. So I'm going to be having some time off until this kind of just like I can get my pain under control and feel better and get the treatments that I need and stop having like I haven't had a flare up. Like before I was having flare ups like maybe once a month. Now I'm having them like once to twice a week. Sometimes they're not going away. So I'm just going from flare up to flare up. And it's definitely like I can only imagine how it's affecting the rest of the world.
Oh, and I mean, I posted some funny memes, and I see some funny memes. Some girls, they lose their eyelashes, they got to get their brows did, their hair falls. But I mean, and it is. I mean, there it is. Again, we're used to certain services always available. Same thing for shopping, where you're like, oh wow, I could really want to work at my home since I have extra time. But it really affects, like you said, it affects a lot of people different ways. But there's people that actually need like chiropractor, massage, physio, and
Yeah.
it isn't available. Like it's just even dentistry. Right now where I am, next week they're opening up into dental offices, but the rules and regulations that they have are so strong where they can only see one patient every 2, 3 hours. And if you don't have a certain exhaust system, you got to put a new HVAC into there. And so there's so many ways that now, even though that it's opening up,
Yeah.
is there's so many stipulations on it. And I think there's still a lot of fear where people don't realize that people like you in the front line go to work every single day. You
Mhm.
see X amount of people. And now, as a society on a whole, we're going to slowly start opening up, but most people are apprehensive. And so it's kind of neat where you're like, hey, you know what? I face it every day. There's people that have been working every single day. And then now we're opening up, and people are like, ooh, I'm not sure. Do people reach out to you and kind of ask you for motivation? Or do people kind of say, how do you do it? Or kind of like any kind of words of advice?
Um, I just keep telling people just keep washing your hands and like I don't people are just some people are just going over and above like crazy, like I see people driving down the road with a full mask on and their gloves and no one else is in the vehicle. And I'm like looking at them like, "What? What's going on there? Like, are you scared of the air you're breathing through your car now? Like, are we actually that frightened?" That's what frightens me because it's the people that are so scared. They're putting themselves in panic mode. So now they're losing sleep. So when they're losing sleep, they're running down their own immune system. They're becoming immunocompromised, and then they're getting sick, right? Like, because of panic and stress. Like, stress is huge, right? If you have this much
Oof.
stress in your life, that is like a silent killer right there. So that's I can only just say like keep doing what you're doing. Don't go and like hang out with at parties where everybody's like, playing or drinking out of the beer pongs or something, like just like keep it real, like just wash your hands and don't touch your face and don't touch your friend's face, like just, common sense, really.
Yeah, it's kind of neat where I I don't know the right verbiage for this, but it's caused a lot of people, I think, as well. There is a silver lining, which we won't see until after, but a lot of people are forced to slow down. They're
Mhm.
now, realizing what's most important to them. What do they miss the most, or what don't they miss at all? Whether it be outings or certain, oh, wow, I haven't had my hair done in 6 weeks. It still looks good. Or, oh, I haven't been able to visit my local tattoo artist in 3, 4 months. Oh, I'm going to be okay. So I think it kind of lets people know maybe we were moving too fast as a society. So now we've had time to sit back and breathe, refocus. And then now kind of, I really think there's going to be a lot of people's lifestyles are going to change a little bit, including my own on,
Yeah.
wow, I've been going pretty slow for the past 6, 7 weeks, but I I don't know how I did what I did before this, working on the floor 22 hours or 25 hours a week, plus doing my online clients, plus my, a couple other business I'm launching into, then spending time with my dog and spending time with my girlfriend. And I'm like, how did I do this all in one day? And how am I going to get back to it kind of thing? So I don't know if you experience the same thing where now as things open up, is it going to kind of change a lifestyle change for you? Or are you excited to get back to what you were before this all started?
Well, to be perfectly honest, like I'm okay. I didn't think I was going to be I mean, I knew I was motivated to go to the gym and stuff like that, but I never realized how I could just motivate myself at home. Like there's definitely things from the gym that I do miss, but I've basically been able to do it all at home. And then of course what the program you have me on right now is a lot of body weight stuff. So yeah, it just shows you that you don't have to be like part of the rat race. And for me, like the things that I miss the most, well, my mom's stuck in Mexico. She was supposed to be
Oh,
home in April and she can't come home. And I was just like, you know what? Just stay there because there's nothing for you to do here. I'm just going to basically like, I'll have to throw you in a room and keep you there for a couple weeks. Right. So just enjoy the sunshine. But they keep pushing back her flights. Like she's supposed to be home in April. Now it's not going to be home till like, now they're saying July, I think. So
wow.
that's quite a ways away.
But how cool would that be? Your mom comes home, you'd be like, go to your room. It's like payback. And like, don't come out till I tell you to. And she can't say nothing. You're like, I will bring you some food. And I want you to think about like you it almost would be kind of fun if she came home and she came to visit or she's at your place and she's like, go to your room. I
Go
would
to your
have
room
some fun with that a little bit. You know, my mom would give me a look, but I'm like, that was kind of nice.
I get to tell you for once, go to your room.
Yep, yeah,
Yeah, but
trading places there a little bit. Um,
yeah, I
and
just
what
miss
is it like? Sorry, go ahead.
I just miss like hugging people. Like I'm even as a nurse, like I'm so hands on. Like I'm one of those ones that sit on the bed with you. I put my hand on you. Like that's how I feel people. I know if they're like receptive to it or not, right? You can tell when someone's just like, okay, don't touch me. But like to assess somebody and to know like what they're feeling and like all that kind of stuff. Like, of course, we're still assessing our patients, but a lot of people, the human touch is huge. And like just being able to like sit there and massage someone's hands when they're having a pain crisis or something like that. And now I have to do it with gloves on. Like that's not fun, you know?
Yeah, there's
So
a lot of little changes, and it's you look at it. What I say, a lot of people's jobs where they go to work, and in the back of their mind, and if you look at their what they did in every single day, if they kept a log, majority of times you're there to you're in a stressful situation. You're there saving people. You're like you said, there's people that on your shift they passed away or they're in critical, and then you have to. I mean, it's very high stress. What keeps you going? Saying, you know what, I love my job and I would never want to change it. What's your motivation behind staying into as a nurse?
honestly, this is gonna sound very strange, but I love caring for people who are dying. Like I love making them comfortable. I was just actually talking about this with somebody the other day. I would love to do like the medically assisted in dying. That's where I would want to be. That's my passion is because I want to make sure that this person has full comfort before they leave this world, and their family. Like connecting with the family is just like it's just so heartfelt and you can't teach that to anybody. You
No.
either have it or you don't. And I've always seemed to really connect with um the dying. Yeah. I don't
And
know. I
like
don't
you
know what
said, it ain't for everybody,
no, it's
and
definitely not.
whether a person is a custodial engineer or a garbage man, they love their job, or someone's in the nurse and they're working with, if they're working in a hospice and stuff, like I'm so thankful there's some people that are passionate about a job that I could never do. But at some
Mhm.
point, I hope I never do need them. But if I ever do, they're going to be there and they're passionate about their job versus they hate it. There's no curb, there's no bedside manner, and they're not providing a care, like you said, to give someone calm and peace. It's such a massive transitional part of their life.
And you can see that. You can see who went to school for all the wrong reasons. And it's just written all over them, right? They don't love their job. They're there for the paycheck. I never want to be anywhere in my life where that's happening to me. Like I want to get up and go. And I mean, of course you have days where you're burnt out. Like you're working 4 12-hour shifts in a row and like some people are doing all nights, like it's crazy. But yeah, as soon as I get to a point in my life where I'm not a happy camper, I'm gonna peace out and go somewhere else where I know that I love my job again.
Yeah. Now, what keeps you as a happy camper now? Like, is working out? Is that what kind of your outlet is? Or so, what are kind of things that you do to stay mentally sane or recharge, or let's say even as an outlet? What kind of things do you do in a day or in a week?
Working out is definitely 100% my go-to. Um, I am huge for music, sunshine. So the last 2 days, it was actually really nice here. It was like, I don't know. It felt like it was like 26 yesterday. So I just went in the backyard with my giant speaker and suntanned. It's just like vitamin D is huge, right? For everybody.
Yeah.
And you're allowed to be in your own yard, like that's nobody's going to let not say that you can't go anywhere. Other than that, I can't tell you the last time I turned my TV on. I do a lot of like I like to see people like you on Instagram, watch that kind of stuff. But like, so I guess I'm a little bit more of a social network. I help people as much as I can with like I have a lot of people that come to me for training ideas and um, food ideas and like what do you eat as a vegan, like that kind of stuff, right? So I take a lot of pride and in my own like nutritional values and stuff like that and just try to help people with whatever they need. Like I've been on a journey for a very long time and like I've yo-yoed up and down in my weights. I've gone from 220 down to like unhealthy back to healthy. So I'm just trying to find a good place for myself, and just being healthy is what is like makes me happy.
I mean, that's very important. Like you hit some major points for this interview where stress is terrible. Mental health is massive, and then maintaining your own happiness. It's very very important, and I think a lot of people lose it in the rat race, whether they're chasing that $1 million occupation that they think they're going to have in the next 2 months, or they're chasing this a dream of whether it be a person, place, or thing, and they're not mentally strong. They're not mentally healthy. So I always say if you're not healthy from the inside, you won't be able to handle your dreams and your hopes once you
Mhm.
get there, because it requires a whole new strength and a whole new mental strength and aptitude in order to maintain and keep that success.
Yeah, definitely.
It's
And I
hard.
think that it's crazy to me. Like I think once you get to that point in your life and you just realize that like if something's making you unhappy, or you're feeling like you're not into it anymore, it's just time to really look and dig deep and figure out like what it is that you need to change, you know? And like whether it's a relationship or your body or like whatever it is, like just I don't know, there's always somebody to help you, you know?
Like
Doesn't have to
the
cost
first
you an
step
arm
is the
and a leg.
hardest step.
Admitting that you have a problem.
Yes, 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 yes. Corrected. Admitting you have
We
a
all have
problem
problems, right?
is because whenever you ask anyone, "How are you?" Fine.
I know.
Everything good? Good. But I mean, it's hard. It is hard for people to open up or feel safe opening up. And part of change is I say you got to break the mold to recreate it. And it's very, very scary with that blind leap. And it's not everybody will make that blind leap to make that change, but it's just knowing you're not alone. Like you said, reach out for help, reach out to someone, talk to someone about it. And mental health, I think, is number one over vanity.
Totally.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's I think is the nucleus. If you're mentally strong, you're gonna even your outlook on what you see in the mirror, if you're in a healthy mental state, is gonna change.
Yeah.
Completely change.
Yeah, that's definitely a tough one. I think that that's another thing too, right? Is there's people that their mental health is to go and reach out to their friends, their groups, like go out and do things. Like that's how they get away from their own inner demons, right? And so that being taken away from them with all of this COVID stuff going on, and like it's just tough. Like I am I'm a social butterfly. I need to socialize. If I'm not socializing, then like I'm like way too in my own head, you know, and then you start ripping yourself apart and you're just like you're at that point where you're just like, okay, you're digging deep. So yeah.
It's tough.
Hopefully
It is
I
tough.
think things are gonna change really quick here. Like I see changes in my place of work and I'm seeing changes in the community. Our grocery stores and all that kind of stuff have never been shut down. That's why everything to me was like so like this is so contradicting. Like everything's like, okay, there's like 200 people in superstore right now, but yet, you know, you can't go into the bank. So what I don't get it. Like, you know?
There's a lot of
Yeah.
unanswered questions with that. And like, let's say at a depot store, there's 150 people in, but then you go to, let's say, a coffee shop was open and they said maximum 6 people, and it was a huge coffee store. So I think it's again we're I guess no one's really prepared for the situation that we're in. There's probably something they said in the event of a catastrophic pandemic, but it's an adapt react, and we are where we are, and we're going to handle what we handle. And I always like to always ask people a question too, and this is out to you, is what's one story you can share with all of us that you kind of hang on to and say, what's the best part of being a nurse, and you're like, oh well, I remember when. Is there a certain story that you've had in the past where you just sit back and you're like, that is why I do my job?
Actually, yeah, just recently. I walked into a room and immediately like it was so crazy, but I just immediately had a connection with the patient. And the family. The family was having a really hard time letting go of their loved one. And they looked at me for all of the answers. And I was like, look here, like, I can't make those decisions for you guys. I said, why don't you ask him? And they're like, well, he can't respond to us. And I was like, yes, he can. Like, people don't need, like, they think that because they're not fully alert, and they think that they lose their cognition, but at this, so anyways, the family were like, that's a really good idea, so they asked him, they said, do you want to continue fighting, do you want us to bring all the doctors on board, or do you want to go to sleep? And he said, go to sleep. And so I was with that family, and the connection that we had, they actually bought me this I don't have it with me right now, but they bought me a really pretty, I'll send you a picture,
Yeah.
really pretty angel. And it's like got these, those ones that you hang in your window, and it's got all the sunbeams and everything that go
Oh,
off of
yeah,
it.
yeah.
It was one of those, and then a really nice card, just saying that I was their angel, and that was just like, to me, I was just like, I'm always in the right place at the right time,
Yep.
and I feel like that's why the float position for me is amazing, because even the family members will be like, we don't want you to leave. Can you please stay? Can you work a double shift? Like, you know. So that's the reason, that really is like what is my favorite parts of my job. Even though it's hard losing the patient, it's just connecting with everybody, making everybody feel really good about their choices, and that their loved ones comfortable.
That is amazing, and I mean that is truly a touching story, and it does take a certain person to be in that situation and be able to step up and rise and make it as comfortable for not only the person in the hospital sick, but everyone else around them, that they're able to even cope or deal with it, and it has a lot to do with the energy in the room. So I want to
Mhm.
thank you for all that you do. But is there, on behalf of you working in the front line, is there anything you want to say, whether it's advice or thanks to anyone, basically going from the front line to the viewers?
You know what? I honestly don't. I think that everybody's doing a really good job, and doing the best that you can do, and just like, just keep washing your hands, and like, just keep following, don't panic, and just keep like following the rules. Try not to watch too much of the news, because it's just so poisoning, and like that's what we soak in all that poison, it causes more stress, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I don't even watch the news in the morning. I have my little Google News that it comes up and pops up things that I normally look at, which three-quarters of it has nothing to do with what's going on with COVID. And yeah, it's the same thing. Like, I love the days where I'm like, I didn't even think about COVID the whole day. And then all of a sudden you turn on the news, you're like, and you're like, it's just you have this great day. And I try not to occupy myself in my thoughts. It's the same thing where, you look at where we are. It's very simple to say, I give up,
Yeah.
versus staying mentally strong. I think being mentally strong is important, having somewhat momentum as we get out of this. And I mean, it's a true testament where you're saying, be mentally strong, manage your stress, wash your hands, and try to keep the panic low. I mean, I think that's the best thing that society or the world can do to get out of this quicker, healthier, and
Yeah.
get back to our new norm, whatever it may be.
Yeah, I think it's going to be great. I mean, I think if you aren't immunocompromised, and you're just, you're a healthy person, and you're taking care of yourself, you know, like the elderly, I understand them staying at home, but like if you need to go out, just like for your own mental health, go for a run. Like if you're allowed to leave your house without getting a fine, do those things. Go and breathe in some fresh air. Like take advantage of how beautiful it is around you. And it's not crazy busy everywhere, right? Like it's not like there's thousands of people on your street. It's just
Oh,
nice to take fresh of, a nice big deep breath of, yeah, fresh air.
I'm about to hit the BBQ after this. After this interview, I'm
Right.
going to go out, hit some BBQ, and then I'm going to come back into the studio and do some more work. But I'm not going to take up any more of your time. This was amazing. I want to thank you very, very much for sharing your stories, being as honest as you can, talking about the trials that you faced, how it affects you, what it's like on the front line. And I think and I know there's a lot of information that people should take away from this to not only be stronger now, but stronger from now until the foreseeable future. So thank you, thank you, thank you very much. It's been amazing.
Thanks for your time too.
Yes. So once again, this was Michelle. She's a nurse. She's a fitness enthusiast. She shared with us some fantastic information. Thank you, everybody, for watching, listening. If you have questions, I'm going to hit up my email at this. You can ask us questions, we can answer. But it is time to go get that fresh air. It is time to breathe. and everybody do the best that you can in the situation that you're in. Thank you, Michelle.
Bye. Take care.